Welcome to Create Personal Equity and our weekly webinar. I'd like to introduce my business partner, Randall Wimmer, and my name is Jonathan Geyer.
Yeah, hey Jonathan. I'm actually kind of excited about today's webinar because I think we have some good news to share. But
Yes, sir.
before I ask you what that good
Glowing.
news is uh, you have a pretty intense passion for sport, don't you? And what is that sport?
Well, judging by my nose, it's boxing. Yeah.
How long have you been boxing?
Coming up on 20 years now.
Wow,
Yes, sir.
wow.
Yes, sir.
What is it about boxing you like so much?
And this is something a lot of people don't speak about too much. I guarantee Mike Tyson would agree with me on this. The mentality, the mindset is actually the most beneficial part. When I coach, when I talk, when I build up my students, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the mentality, the courage to go through the fire. Because life hurts, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it really does. I never followed a sport, after high school. But in high school, back in the high school glory days, I was part of a horrible football team. And and I'm convinced that whatever modest success that I have enjoyed in life is because my football team in high school sucked. And there's something that you learn, with a broken finger on the, with when you're on your own goal line playing defense, and the score is already 0-48, and you are just getting crushed, and you're doing the best that you can to you're fighting for pride at that point. What is it about boxing other than that mentality, or what part of that mentality that really resonates with you that has kept you boxing for over 2 decades?
grit. It's the most applicable part to everything else in life. Like you're going to get punched. You go for that. You ask for a promotion, they say no. You ask a woman out, she says no. Like life punches you. How do you deal with the punching?
Yeah.
Like being punched is more useful than knowing how to punch. It's counterintuitive, but it's a big deal.
And you're an expert at being punched, huh?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's
I
perfect.
get I get better looking every year.
Yeah. So now, so you're really active in boxing, even to this very day, aren't
Yes,
you?
sir.
Like, what do you do? Like, how are you still involved with boxing?
I am now the old guy in the gym. I am the coach. I coach 3 days a week, Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
So now you're a boxing coach. So you
Yes,
feel
sir.
so strongly about boxing that you have become a boxing coach. And you do this religiously 3 times a week at your club. So now I've kind of set the playing field a little bit, so people have context
Awesome.
about your grand announcement here. So tell us about your passion project that you're launching through Create Personal Equity.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So we are actually, can you elaborate a little bit more on that question? Because my first response is going to be general, but I know this is specific.
Well, well, okay, well, let's go back. I'll do
Awesome.
this in a two-part question.
Thank you.
How has Create Personal Equity helped your boxing club?
We've 10x'd at least, and I'm just making up that number. It's probably more than 10x. We have a waiting list of 30 boxers. We've gone from being an unknown, a normal gym, just like a hometown gym, to now we are leading the country in boxing. Like what one of America's oldest sports. Uh, significant. Significant is the word I would use to what the Create Personal Equity processes have, how it's impacted our gym.
So, so you feel like the tools and techniques. Now this is kind of a loaded question here, but the tools and
Awesome.
techniques and the strategies that we employ at Create Personal Equity. So it sounds to me like they have increased your gym membership. Is that a correct statement? You just said
Yes,
you
sir.
10x. So,
Absolutely.
um, how about how did that happen? I guess that's the question. Like how did you grow in your membership? What really led to the visibility of your club, where you're that enabled more and more people to see it, be aware of it, the values of boxing, to want to actually join your club. Can you tell
Oh,
us a little?
perfect. This is an easy one, but I have to illustrate the context a little bit more. So as a this is normal. This is the average for boxing gyms or athletic gyms in general. It's word
Mm-hmm.
of mouth. Like
Yeah.
very few gyms are local. Like they're not advertising across the country. They're advertising within their town, and even then, it's usually minimal kind of advertising. So basically, uh, if somebody sees the gym while driving by, they're going to come. So most gyms are constrained by who's able to see it, who's able to hear that occasional radio advertisement or see the occasional YouTube ad that pops into it. That's where Create Personal Equity has helped the most. It expanded from just this local footprint, this small draw, a tiny circle on the map kind of footprint, which is the average for gyms across the United States. It expanded it. It fast tracked. I was just thinking for a word there. It took us places that I didn't expect. I didn't realize that it was even possible. It was actually outside of going kind of technical. It was outside of my frame of reference because I've boxed in gyms across the United States, and this local footprint, this I'm not sure, 2 miles around the gym is the average.
It's almost line of sight. If you don't see the
That's the
club,
word I was looking for. Yep.
yeah, if
Perfect.
it's not line of sight, if you can't see the club, you're not aware of it. I think that would be the case for most boxing clubs, based
Yes,
upon
sir.
the research that we've done.
Yeah, and that's so we went beyond that. We went beyond line of sight. What yeah. I now that you're using the military terms, I'm trying to think the missiles that go beyond the line of sight.
Oh
It,
yeah,
it was
over the
beyond.
horizon.
Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, let's militarize this thing. So how did you do
Awesome.
that?
Which works with boxing.
So you took your club underneath your wings, as basically as a Create Personal Equity client, and how did you go over and expand their their line of sight accessibility, their marketability, their visibility? How did you do that?
Online presence, and what I'm going to speak to in our particular case also applies. It's the average for boxing gyms across the country. Online, most gyms have a basic website. We had a basic website, nothing special, really nothing of note. And actually, uh, I'm not sure if this is a negative label or whatnot. Every boxing owner I know doesn't like the internet. They are anti-web. Most boxing owners or boxing gym owners,
Okay.
they have
Before we,
flip phones.
yeah. Before we piss off too many boxing owners,
Awesome.
that's not the demographic you want to piss off. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
But before we do
Agreed.
that, I would say this right here. Let's spin this a little bit. We're in the marketing and the promotional and the personal branding industry. So let's say it this way: most boxing owners are passionate boxers that have grown so passionate about that sport that they want to share it. They're not marketing specialists. They're not business specialists. They're not, they are boxers first and foremost that have become so passionate that they want to share it. And, and that's noble. You know what I mean? But they're not coming from the marketing industry. They didn't graduate from Kellogg Business School or Harvard, business school and say, hey, let's start a business. Hey, that boxing, industry is looking really good. Let's go after that. That's not how people grow into a boxing club owner. They're passionate about their sport. They're boxers first and foremost, and they lack the marketing skills. So you know what I mean. And I think that's a fair statement. In most cases, because they didn't launch the club because they looked at the P&L statement of this industry and said, hey, wow, there's a lot of money to be had. They launched it as because they were passionate about the sport. Is that a safest
Yeah.
a safe description of the average or typical boxing club owner?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a parental type motivation, like a
Yeah.
parent helping out the kids. They just want to help out the next generation. And that's kind of it. That's the start to end of the motivations behind it for most.
Yeah, for the ones that I've met, through Create Personal Equity, that I would agree with you with that. These people are the most passionate people I've seen.
Yes, sir.
It's just the reason why you fell in love with the sport and keep on doing it 20 some years later. That's the reason why they're launching boxing clubs. So the deal is it's not a criticism that they don't know how to do it. It's just something that they've never been exposed to the
How would
marketing.
you know?
Yeah, how would you know? Yeah, so you're the marketing, the promotion, the branding guru, and so you're helping them online. So how are you doing that specifically?
Well, first, assess where they're currently at, like
Hmm.
baseline the current state, and then try to find the opportunities from there. Most, let me speak to our gym specifically. We had like a template website when we first dove into this, and that template website wasn't updated for 10 years. So last time it was touched
Okay.
was 10 years.
Well, actually, what you just said is pretty amazing. So for the previous 10 years, it sounds to me like nothing really much was happening other than just static, growth, like maintenance, and then you come along.
And that's the
So,
average. That's the I bet you it's that way. There again, I was training for I've boxed in gyms in every state in the country, and
mhm,
it's I would put money on it that's the current state, or that's the most
yeah.
common.
So the internet, you changed around, you got them, a website that's engaging, SEO optimized. What else?
Consistent content. As you know, we're publicly describing our personal experiences,
Hmm.
but it's posting consistent. Oh, hey, speaking to that website hasn't been touched in 10 years. Just posting consistently. What a big deal. What a difference that makes. And
Yeah.
feeding the algorithm that consistent content helps the algorithm know that, hey, you're important. You're worth us looking at it and disseminating to a broader audience
When you
beyond
say
that
algorithm,
2 mile circle.
so you're a marketing expert. What do you mean by algorithm to the average, boxing club owner out there?
I'm thinking of a metaphor here real quick. Uh, would you rather be in one copy of the phone book or every copy of the phone book? And the algorithm decides how many places your phone number will populate. Like it's well, maybe the metaphor, the phone book was speaking of dated. Maybe that one was too dated. Yeah, it's actually like your socialite friend. If your socialite friend knows that you have a boxing gym, as they go around socializing, they're going to tell other people that you have a gym.
That's right.
It happens by default, and that trickles throughout your community. The
Yeah.
algorithm works the same way. It's
Yeah.
the socialite friend.
Yeah, the way I kind of envision it, and the way I describe it to people is that every social media outlet, every like LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Um, it determines how newsworthy that post is, and
Yes, sir.
and determines how broadly distributed it is, and to whom it's distributed to. So if you maximize your value to that algorithm, then it's going to be distributing your content to the broadest, largest, group of people, and it's going to be to the people who can best benefit from that content. So you're not only getting to the right people, you're getting your information to a lot of the right people. And that's kind of the way I see the, the term algorithm, because that's an industry term that we use that a lot of people may not be as familiar with, but that's, so you got the content not only to the right people but to a lot of the right people. What kind of content are we talking about there, Jonathan?
So, um, I was just going to say use case. I'm not sure if that applies here. videos
Yeah.
of boxers boxing. Maybe that is a use case or a case study,
Yeah.
like showing what actually happens in the gym, like so
Yeah.
people can see with their own eyes. What a big deal. Beyond just that socialite friend talking, like people can see it from themselves, for themselves. And because we're appeasing the algorithm, that is growing. That's amplifying. It's getting bigger and bigger. It's perpetually growing.
Well, I did. The only time I boxed was at the Naval Academy, and that was during plebe summer. They taught us how to box.
Awesome.
Taught us how to box, which basically they gave us some gloves. They taught us a few punches, and then they threw us in a ring with somebody that was always
Standard.
inevitably bigger and stronger than you are. I don't know how that
All right.
is that you were always boxing somebody bigger than you are. It's like, you would think 50% of the time you'd be boxing somebody smaller than you, but it just didn't work out that way. It's like back in the days, you always walked uphill both ways to school, so
In
you
a
were
snow.
always boxing. Everybody was always boxing somebody bigger, and so that's my own experience. But when I think of boxing clubs, I can't help this perception. I immediately think of Rocky and this dark, depressing, almost like a cave of, and you got brutes in there, and it looks like there should be rats scurrying around, in every corner. And that's what I'm thinking, like blood and sweat and
It's the
other
most
bodily
factual
fluids.
part of the movie. That's
No, but when you show videos of your club, it wasn't like that at all. It was bright, clean, professional. People were like having a good time. Like you could hear people laughing in the background, joking around. Also see people getting a really great workout. And your videos really changed my perception, because I guess I would have been the typical person, thinking about boxing. Like, man, I don't know about boxing. That seems pretty intense. Do I really want to do that? And but you really, those videos really showed me, that I completely changed my perception of what that club was. And I thought, wow, that's a great place to go to get a cardio workout and then some. It's like it seemed really, like I said, it was completely different than what I was visualizing. And I think you changed a lot of people, your videos, because your videos are like out there. They are like extremely popular. How many people are hitting your videos?
We're coming up on 1 million views. And we
Wow.
just started. We just started. So 12 months, 13 months.
Wow. So you got 1 million views of your
From
club's
around the world. People
video.
around the world are reaching out to us.
Okay. Who's the most famous person who's watching your
Mayweather,
videos?
Floyd Mayweather. Yeah.
Floyd Mayweather.
Yes,
So
sir.
you got the most recognizable name. Him and Mike Tyson are probably the two most recognizable names in boxing, and you got one of them following your channel. That is crazy. That is crazy. And this is from a club that, honestly, not to degrade other clubs, but it was just like your typical boxing club that had been static, no visibility, no nothing for a decade. And then all of a sudden, within the last, year or so, actually really like the last 6 months or so, to be honest, it's now you're approaching 1 million views, and you've got some of the most famous boxers in the world tuning in. That's crazy. And you do this live stream too. It's not like, recording or a video that you post. This is actually live. You're doing these live streams, aren't
We
you?
had 31,000 people tune in a couple of weeks ago, live during the live stream.
That is unbelievable to have 31,000 people stop what they're doing in their day, living life, to tune in to watch you coach a lesson or coach a class,
A bunch
a
of people
club.
working out. Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? It's like that to me. That is unheard of. That's unbelievable. But that's the power of the internet.
Yes, sir.
That's the power of effective marketing. So, that one lesson that only had the people, that one day, let's just go back. Let's just look at that one evening. That one evening, how many people were in the club at that particular time?
40.
40 people. So you got
Yep,
40 people, which is a lot of people, really, for a boxing club to be there at any given time. So there's 40 people in the club. So there's 40 people who would normally see what's going on in that club. and they're already customers. So to be honest with you, from a business perspective, they're your least important people because they're people you already got. You know what I mean? But nobody else was seeing your club. Nobody on that random Tuesday evening. Nobody else. And then all of a sudden, you've built up this live stream audience, and now you have 31,000 people watching that club on a random Tuesday night. That to me is amazing. So, you know, there's no wonder why it's growing so quickly. So you've already kind of tapped out your local market. You know, any and everybody who could join is joining. And you said there's actually a waiting list. That's
Yep.
unbelievable. How is that visibility helping your club in other ways? You know, with because you told me, you know, about events and things and
But
drawing it.
the big part, and I would just like to highlight it here, the consistency of membership. And I'm saying this like from an empathetic perspective because that's where most boxing, most small gyms, that's where they struggled with the variability in membership.
Yeah.
It makes it hard to pay your bills. It makes it hard to plan ahead of time. The events, the events we do to build up the community, it makes it hard to pay for that stuff if you don't have that consistent membership. That consistency uh, enables all sorts of awesomeness that percolates throughout the community. Most boxing gyms, they're there to help out the community. It's kind of it's not charity, but mentality wise, kind of. So
Yeah.
once the bills are predictable, the income is predictable, then they can expand their horizons. They can expand to do more, for helping out the communities that they're in. That's how it's played out for our gym. Like
That is amazing. Um, that's truly amazing. But I was trying to throw you a softball pitch,
ah, awesome.
talking about, like, you know, now you actually have outside organizations coming to your club
Oh
and
my
asking
gosh.
you to host, you know, events because your visibility is so high. Now, again, this is a club that, you know, 6, 9, 12 months ago was like middle of the pack, no different than any other club, zero visibility other than line of sight, people driving past it and say, oh, hey, yeah, there's the club, you know, the boxing club. But tell us about this event and other, you know, potential opportunities coming up.
Oh my gosh. So because of our the promotion that we're doing, the strategy that we are using, it's being noticed. It's being noticed by our local by these people that I've been talking to for the last 20 years. They are noticing how successful our gym is, and because it's a weak spot for them, they're asking us to come record their matches, to come record their events, and put that to narrate their shows, their events. People from around the Midwest, realistically, are asking me to come out and record their shows, to promote their shows, because that's
Yeah, no, that's great. And you also have what, a regional, like, championship, you know, competition that's going to be hosted by your club as well.
for the first time ever in our local town. So the state championships, which is the first level for the maybe the second level for the Olympics, is now being hosted in our town, St. Cloud, for the first time ever because of we're leading. We're leading the state now in boxing.
Oh, that's perfect. No, that's really good. Um, so another thing that when I think of boxing, this is another area, and again, I'm throwing you a softball pitch.
Awesome.
Well, listen, I'm going to add a little bit of context to
I
this
like
right
it.
here. Back currently, there's 44,000 karate studios. We're talking about taekwondo, karate, jujitsu, judo. You know, we're talking about, you know, generic karate studios. 44,000, because, you know, we did the research, and there's a little over 3,000 boxing clubs. So 44,000 versus 3,000 the boxing, and that changed. You know, and I was talking to my kids about this. I was telling them about, you know, in the late 70s, early 80s, that boxing was, you know, it wasn't as big as football or baseball. Excuse me, football, baseball, or maybe even basketball, but it was probably the number 4th sport. I could I could, as a 13-year-old kid, list probably half the people that were in the top 10 in the heavyweight division in boxing. Easy. Because it was such a big deal. When when Sugar Ray Leonard, when he was boxing, everybody knew. And it was like, wow, he's going to win the fight, the fight, and like everybody was talking about. That's no longer the case. Boxing has declined, and then you have this, karate has rapidly it's just blown up. It's like massive. And we were talking about this the other day, and it's really about messaging.
Yes.
These karate studios, taekwondo, they market they market this program to children, to kids, after school programs, to women. If you go to all of these, taekwondo websites, I would say 2/3 of the pictures, maybe even 3/4, are children and women. It's a demographic that I feel that boxing has left behind. And, because right now I would say, again, based upon our research, that the typical boxing club targets 16-year-old, let's say 15-year-old, males all the way up to 30-year-old. We're talking about, unless you're in the competitive range for boxing, you don't go to a boxing club. And when there's
True.
so much value, to women and to children in boxing programs, but those market segments are completely ignored by the overwhelming majority of boxing gyms. And your club is kind of at the forefront of really expanding those opportunities for your club, for boxing, for women and kids and youth. Can you talk about that a little bit there, Jonathan, about how you're kind of expanding your market, segmentate, or expanding to additional market segments of women and youth?
Yeah, and actually, I'm gonna toss this as a compliment back to you because I've been in boxing for so long. Because this is my average. It's the world as I've always known it. Your perspective was new. Your I had blinders on. The boxing gym as it sits, you described like the darker gyms and the rats running around.
Yeah.
That's actually a fair description. Like I've been in gyms across the country, and that's a fair description. I didn't notice it was an issue until you highlighted it as an issue, until you brought it up. From your marketing experience, from the stuff that you went through, you saw it. And I was too close to the problem to see it. But since you've highlighted, since you brought it to my attention, we've taken steps. Like we've deliberately worked around that to rebrand, to project a different image, so it does appeal to more, because the sport is more than just punching. Like I
Yeah.
consider the punching the least important part. As we were talking about earlier, it's the mentality. Like
Yeah, right. It's no, that's right. And again, it's so, you're incorporating things that have grown the karate industry, which started out like I said, probably back in the early 80s. It was probably at 3,000, and boxing was probably at 44,000, clubs. It flipped. And the reason why is because, karate, they started going after different, market segments. And even though that, martial arts, karate, taekwondo, jujitsu, they're all contact, they're offering contactless opportunities to participate, where they're getting all the benefits, from learning taekwondo, the confidence, the discipline, the physical fitness, the flexibility, all of that kind of stuff. They're getting all the benefits. And boxing has that same opportunity, to go in there, get the best workout you'll ever have. Because I'm telling you, I you know I remember this from my Naval Academy days. There is no better workout than stepping in a ring,
there isn't.
and this, like, or punching a bag. Oh my gosh, you want to work out, you do that, and so you get all the benefits of that. So, I think expanding to new markets really has a tremendous opportunity that you're just now hitting into. Hell, you already got a surplus of a wait list of people who want to join, but now, as your marketing, for these other markets are kicking in, the club's going to be like franchising. It's going to be, they're going to be launching new gyms to take care of that. So now is the big news. And I probably should ask you this question, up front. You and I, we're doing create personal equity, but we also want to do more. We also want to help out our community. So I have a passion project that we'll talk about down the road, but
Awesome.
you have a passion project that we're talking about today because you're making it happen today. And what is that passion project that we're doing through create personal equity?
Oh, you got to give me a little bit more. We talked about this before we started recording here. Set me up a little bit more.
Okay, so what are you doing for boxing gym, for boxing gym owners?
Oh my gosh. We are, what we've done with our gym, like the success that we achieved, I've personally achieved with our gym. We're doing it for others. Like I can prove we've proven that this strategy, what create personal equity has done with my personal gym works, right? Like, why wouldn't it work for others? It totally will.
Yep. So how are we doing that? So why don't you tell us a little bit about Jonathan Geyer Promotions and Jonathan Geyer Boxing?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to need some more softballs here.
Oh, buddy, you're being way too modest here. So
we were in boxing mode, so now that's where my mind is focused.
Yeah. So the deal is so what Jonathan Geyer is kind of being like overly modest and wanting to talk about is he has launched and he is leading a passion project through Create Personal Equity to go out there and help as many boxing club owners as possible.
It makes sense.
And doing that at a ridiculously reduced price. Basically, it's at cost.
Yes,
so, and the reason why is because I got to believe with Jonathan here, the world needs more boxers. They need more people with that mindset. Now, you don't have to box to have that kind of mindset, but if you box, you have that mindset. And that mindset is you don't quit. You grind it out. You do whatever it takes, and you have the confidence of knowing that you can do that. So the deal is the world is a better place with more boxers in it, and I tell you, we can all but guarantee the same level of success that Jonathan has experienced with his club to any other boxing club that would like to benefit the way his has, because again, these boxing club owners, for the most part, are bringing the grit, they're bringing the boxing passion, but the deal is they lack in the marketing, aspect, the promotion aspect,
for logical reasons.
Yeah, for logic. Yeah, and the deal is Jonathan, he has both of those perspectives. He understands the boxing mentality, the boxing owner's mentality, and he's an expert at marketing and promotion, and I really do believe that any boxing club that takes them up on this, like literally one in a lifetime opportunity, will grow as much as they want to. For some boxing club owners, it's not about, being the biggest, boxing club in the world. They're focused on being the best and but they'll be able to grow as large as they want. They'll be able to grow past the concerns about whether or not they're going to be able to pay the bills. They'll do whatever they want to improve their boxing club, whether that be through revenue, whether that through different markets, different classes, different, they will be able to grow in any capacity that they want. Would you agree with that, Jonathan?
Guaranteed. And I would like to say we are the greatest. That was Ollie. Yep.
Okay. But that's part of the boxing mentality too. Boxing gym owners, first and foremost, they like to win. And I think that's, they want to win in boxing because that's the competitive nature that every single boxing club owner I've ever met, has. But I think we can provide them the resources, the tools, the knowledge in order to help them win at being a boxing club owner. And I think it's just a different game. It's a different competition. And I think we bring the skills, the tools, the technology, the capabilities, the knowledge in order to help them win, and then in the world of boxing club owners. to grow their business. And like I said, as big as they want it to be. And I literally mean that, as like you're turning away clients. You could very easily launch a second club right now, because you haven't even started tapping really into those other different market segments, which are the real growth markets, the youth, children, and half the population, 50% female. You get into that category where they feel like it's a safe place to go exercise without getting punched in the face.
And that's what we got now. Yep.
Yeah. And you start growing in that area, contactless, boxing. Oh my gosh, you are going to be able to, grow as big as you want. Anything you want to wrap up with? Because we're a little bit over time there, Jonathan.
Yeah, I had a good thought, an awesome thought a moment ago, and I've lost it since we started. This you spoke to youth. That is another perspective addition that you added that I didn't think that much about it beforehand. And I'm saying this openly because how I'm expressing this is how I'm perceiving this is how most gym owners perceive it. The youth, the kid market, kid only classes. As a coach, it is hard for me to teach adults and kids at the same time.
You can't.
And for most gyms across the country, they've segmented it where you have the adults and probably nothing for kids, or it's 5 days adults and then 1 day kids or whatnot. That is a huge opportunity for all the same reasons that you see these classes populated in karate or
karate. I would say at least 80% of all the enrollments, again, based on our research, are youth at these karate, dojos and clubs. 80% are youth, at least 80%. And there's no additional value that Taekwondo gives you that boxing can't. You know what I mean? It's just like boxing provides every single thing that Taekwondo can, from a value statement. For youth development. In fact, I would probably suspect that there's more boxing clubs in college than there are Taekwondo clubs, or jiu-jitsu, or judo, or karate, or shorin-ryu, or Brazilian, whatever the flavor is. Boxing is, because boxing is one, is one large category of martial arts. I think there's more opportunities in college, to differentiate. If you're applying to college as a 17-year-old and you've been a competitive boxer for 8 years, there's not too many people who could put that on their resume, or on their college application. Like, hey, I'm a boxer. And colleges, they love that differentiated class. They want to see everybody have a unique something that they're bringing into the table. Not too many people are bringing in boxing as a 17-year-old kid. How about this? A 17-year-old female, coming in there and they say, I've been a competitive boxer for 7 years or 8 years or however long. You want to stand out in the crowd, say that. And I think you're going to get a lot of looks. You really will, because you're unique. So I think there's, like I said, there's a lot of opportunities there. But
the best students in my class are early 20 females right now.
Yeah. So, hey, so I'm going to be the Debbie Downer here. The price that we're offering, it's so ridiculously reduced that there's only going to be a handful of clubs that we're going to be able to take on at a time. So if you want to do it like now rather than having to wait, we've already got a handful of clubs already that's contacting us. So we can take on probably a few more at this point, but afterwards we got to wait because we also have to we also have our create personal equity clients, of how we're paying the bills, so to say, that we're working with, that we can't do this full time, but we'd like to help out as many as we can. And if we can't help you now, we'd like to be, because we've got too many gyms already, then we'd like to be able to help you out in the future when the bandwidth lightens up. So, but there's still some few spots now that we can help you, like now. We can transform your club within 6 months. And I feel confident making that statement based upon what you've done, with your club and the other clubs that we're working with. So anything you'd like to end with there, Jonathan, before we sign off?
What a great conversation. This was awesome.
Okay. Yeah. Here's a boxing mentality coming out. So I guess we'll see you next week.
Yes, sir. We look forward to everybody joining us again Thursday, 12 p.m. noon. Thank
Hey,
you
and
all.
if you want to learn more about how you can set up your boxing club, with literally hiring an entire marketing department, led by Jonathan and myself, then contact us, with the meeting scheduler that's in the comments below, and we'll set you up. Talk to you soon.
Perfect. Awesome.